Thanks for inviting me, and thanks for listening at 5 o'clock at night. I think happy hour is the most important piece that we just heard about that. So David Rickert, I'm based out of Geneva, Switzerland, despite my accent. I'm the SAP practice manager at Snowflake worldwide. I've talked over the past 5 years to well over 300 customers about getting data from SAP. They have a very, very small booth on the other side of the building if you want to see what they do. And what I'm going to discuss today is and so I'm roughly tracking about 650 customers that are pulling data out of SAP and in Snowflake today. And what's one of the biggest use cases is that ability to mix the SAP data, right, the transactional, operational, with the shop floor data. And so we'll go through one of the use cases that I find is really cool today about that. And then we'll open up for questions. I think can be some really specific questions, and we can definitely go as deep as you'd like to go. So safe harbor, disclaimers, even though everything I'm going to say is true, it's still good to be safe. And so what I'd like to focus on, of course, in Europe, most people and most companies and most manufacturers have some kind of SAP component. I think people underestimate how enormous that is on the transactional side. I worked for SAP for over 18 years. And so 70% of the Fortune 500 or 80+% of manufacturers have data in SAP. And that's normal. But what's happened and what's been happening over the past 40, 50 years is that data is siloed, and it's been difficult to bring that into the shop floor data. People have been doing it. What's the value add of Snowflake is to be able to be more efficient, effective, and in a simpler manner. And so what we're going to see is a complex pattern of using multiple technologies being reduced down into a couple of different steps. And I just want to focus on the making piece of it. Right, smart manufacturing, you have the IIOT piece, that smart metering, the vibrations, temperature, all those things around what's happening in the shop floor. And gosh, wouldn't it be nice if we could inform our customers if something's speeding up or something's slowing down so that they know when they're going to get their product. The specific case that I have is more along the a bit more dull, is on work orders, but we'll get to that. How do people, because it's 99% of the questions I get, so how do you get the data out of SAP? There's a couple different ways, and we'll look at different patterns, but in the case of Snowflake, we use a third party. That third party could be either SAP, so they have their data integration components, whether it's data services that's been around for 20 plus years, whether it's DataSphere that they've just come out with, or the Business Data Cloud, these different components. And other more direct ways are through, for example, some of our partners that are also here, Fivetran, Click, SMP Glue, where they connect into that system and they pull it out directly into Snowflake. And then, IoT, we'll see a couple different patterns, but we also have integration patterns. I don't know if you saw HighByte, they have a piece here, and then over on the other side we have a couple other components. So, simple flow, bring the data across. What's the value add of Snowflake is that you can bring in your structured, semi-structured, unstructured data, first-class citizen, into one place in an economical, efficient, and effective way. What we see, and that's why so many customers are going it just goes back to the basics of bringing this data across, whether it's JSON, whether it's CSV, whether it's streaming, et cetera, et cetera. And then just to complete the story, if you don't know about Snowflake, is that you land the data, raw zone or bronze, you transform it, bring it across, and then you can immediately use what we call Snowflake Cortex AI, but you can also bring your own large language module, anything that you want. We have a semantic layer, and then we also have some tools that just make it really automatic. I ran the SAP user group last week, some of the biggest customers in Europe, Nestle, Siemens, Ericsson, Signify, they all have SAP to Snowflake patterns. They're all talking with each other. And what we did at the end of the user group was we did a hackathon. So from zero, we took accounts receivable, and we brought it all to creating a chat bot all in less than 45 minutes. So that, if you're interested, I can give you the GitHub code for that. I think it's super interesting. To back out a bit, Snowflake is that you can ingest and you can report at the same time. We have a separation of compute and storage. Very, very different from the legacy world that I come from, SAP, where you need to ingest at nighttime, and then you can do your processing, do your reporting. Here, Snowflake, you can bring it in a streaming manner and report on it immediately. What am I going to talk about next? Does anybody know what this is? Any idea? How many people do rock climbing? One rock climber. Okay, good. How many? So this, I don't even know what it is. It's a blade. It's a security equipment that you put your rope in, and it will save your life. It's developed, manufactured in Europe by a French company called Petzl, P-E-T-Z-L. Okay, how many people have a headlamp? A Petzl headlamp. Right, okay. They make that too. Good safety indicator. So we'll go through the scenario of how they use SAP data and Snowflake. So, industrial, IIOT, industrial IoT, Petzl. The use case is that they have an assembly line machine data, and they're streaming it to Snowflake and correlating that with the work orders. So if there's some kind of piping or something's not going right or whatever, that gets detected. Somebody can create a work order on the back of it. What happened in the past is somebody's in the machine, something bad happened, I need to report it. Somebody types in the work order and brings it across. Here, the idea is to bring in what's that sensor data telling us, automatically generate and correlate the work order with it. They tried this in the past with a bunch of different technologies, part of AWS, a partner, in the big industry 4.0 project. And they used, in this initial solution, they used Sitewise, Greengrass, IoT Core, and whatnot. We'll see the different hops that had to take and the challenges that they had with it. What were some of the challenges? Deployment complexity, number of tools, scalability, the IoT piece, how much time it took to actually get the data, and then having to have an expertise across these different patterns. So what did that look like? So you've got the machines, they're bringing the data across. There's several different automation systems in the factory, Ignition, Avivia, Rockwell, and others. And then they had on-site database, MS SQL. And as they brought that data across from the automation systems into that, they're losing a lot of the context around those different IoT systems. And that's what the green arrow, red arrow, that was bringing it across. And when the variables hit that on-premise time series database, most of the SSOT, the single source of truth, was being stripped out, which was a challenge. And then once it got through that, then it hit the high byte piece, and then it went across onto the cloud side, S3 buckets, AWS Glue, Amazon, RDS, Postgres, and because of so many hops, there's a difficulty in keeping that synchronicity between the on-premise systems and the cloud systems. And so how many hubs do we have? We've got the automation systems, we've got the standard edition, we've got the intelligence hub, we've got the S3 buckets, the glue piece, et cetera. And then at the very end of that, they've got the Denodo data virtualization and reporting at the end of that. Whew, Great, fantastic. Well, fantastic for consultants and people that had to develop it, and times and materials, right? That's not where we at Snowflake are. We want to drive efficiencies, and we want to get more workloads on top of that. So our team came in, and we said, we want to simplify that for you, and we want to take out multiple steps, and we want to, one, bring more context, faster time to value, fewer moving parts. So we came on site. It allowed us, right? What industry manufacturer allows you to do that? They let us, connect to one of their machines. It was set up in the morning, getting data in the afternoon. We were able to actually do the majority, the biggest part of the POC in a day. No code, low maintenance. The time to the Power BI report is less than 5 seconds from the time that something happened on the machine to getting into the report. And we'll see some of the components behind that, but we have something called an IIOT bridge. How many people know what an edge system is? Right, okay, we can kind of like just cut out the edge system and we'll see it go across. What we saw, or what they estimated, was a 40 to 50% cost savings. And so when the readings indicate the potential issues, then you can now easily correlate that assembly line data with the work orders, driving efficiencies behind that. And then, as opposed to, right, we talk to manufacturers, they will, oh, that piece is going to wear out in 10 years. We need to replace it now. Instead of doing that and moving closer to the time of when it's actually going to wear out and what replaces, right, the whole predictive maintenance piece around that. If people go for that, they can now go more closely to that and actually, what's actually happening physically with the piece as opposed to what a manufacturer tells you that. So able to drop down those cost estimations from 450,000 euros down to 150,000 users. So, ta-da! How did we do this? Well, we cut out a lot of the steps. One, we went from the machines, and in this case, we're just using ignition, and with the MQTT. How many people know what MQTT is? Okay, great, fantastic, right? It's just sending messages when there's a change. Temperature is 50 degrees Celsius. Is going to, if it stays at 50 degrees, it's not going to send an event. It only happens when it changes. So there's a lot less data coming across the network. We cut out the edge, except for the automation piece. It's going directly to the server, and then we've got something called an IIOT bridge for Snowflake, and then which is collecting from the MQTT. So we're skipping and we'll see it on the next slide, in fact. We're skipping out on the SQL database, local database, the intelligence hub piece, having a bucket, right? It's okay to have a bucket, right? But there's transformation piece, just landing it in Snowflake and then able to do the transformations in there. So a single governed environment, simplification of bringing that IoT piece across, and it's pretty simple. But the more boxes you take out, the more you can simplify, and on the other hand, bringing more value because you're bringing the whole context of those pieces across. Makes a lot of sense, and Petzl is really happy with this. Ta-da! Now the extraction patterns, right? So first, some of the public references: ABB, Siemens, Carrier, Kona, pumping hundreds of millions of lines out of SAP into Snowflake. Why? Is because they can augment on the planning piece, on the supply chain piece, on the AI piece, with a massive amount of compute, and you only pay for what you need. Other solutions really like, okay, you're going to pay 24/7 for the compute because there's no separation between the compute and storage. Whereas with Snowflake, it's like, okay, we just spin it up. We have the compute when we need it. The situation with ABB, right? They've through acquisitions over the past 30, 40 years, 100 different companies. They all have SAP. They all have a different SAP pattern behind it. Bringing it to Snowflake and bringing it from the BW piece, that they can bring it and have a better visibility their finances on the Snowflake side. Siemens, 99,000 tables every 15 minutes. They're bringing data from 65 ECC and S4 systems into Snowflake every 15 minutes. Carrier, don't know much about. Cocoa in North America, another big customers of ours. They replace a HANA enterprise data warehouse, 50, 60 terabytes, put it in Snowflake, reducing the cost by millions and millions, right? Because a HANA, how many people know how much a terabyte of HANA database costs? Well, it's around 400,000 to $1 million a year. How much is it in Snowflake? 23 euros per terabyte per month. Okay, so it's like 120, so a lot less. Of course, we're not talking about the compute, but still, orders of magnitude on the storage side, and then just the flexibility and scalability that you've got on the other side. Things, if you've been following SAP, as we all do, right? It's like, what's happening? Is over the past year, SAP has been coming out with certain technical notes, and they're also, right, most of the customers have to move from ECC to S4. I always recommend, take a look at your contracts, see what's going there. So there's a couple different patterns that are still available if you're following the SAP side. One of them is the ability to use ABAP, so custom ABAP code. These are a couple of examples of people are anybody care? Yes? No? Okay. Nobody's losing. It's okay. It's almost beard sights. So these systems are actually sitting inside the SAP system, could sit outside of it, and it's using ABAP, and so it's using a SAP code to push the data out. And biggest companies on the planet are using the top one, and some almost biggest companies on the planet are using the lower one. Upper one might be a combination of some SAP technology, which is called SLT, plus SMP glue for the last mile, or the 5-tran piece. There's also, if we take another look on, for example, the API that SAP exposes through ECC or S4 is the OData connectors, and a couple of examples of that, AWS Glue, Click, Talon, there's Azure Data Factory as well that is going through that. Lower volumes, higher latency, but that's one of the patterns. If we take a look at, and I don't want to go through all the renaming, but this is number 6. No, I'm sorry, DataSphere is number 5 of what the big data solution from SAP was. Okay, we'll go through it. Vora, Data Intelligence, Data Hub, Data Intelligence, Data Warehouse Cloud, DataSphere. What's the next one? Business Data Cloud. That's right. Just came out in February, only 18 months after DataSphere. So, very happy that there's a solution, work well with it. What's the pattern? If you choose to use that, is you go from SAP to DataSphere, and then there's actually 3 pieces. One, you can use premium outbound, drops in S3 bucket. Snowflake would pick it up because we have an integration with the S3 bucket, and we use a copy into. That's one way. Otherwise, it can be a Kafka topic, and we can pick it up from that with a Snowpipe streaming SDK. The other solution would be you actually materialize the data in DataSphere, and then you pick it up using an ETL. Just for fun, for those techies out there, some of the things that we showed on the IIOT piece that helps you is, for example, the as of join. Maybe you have 2 different data sets that don't exactly have the same timestamp. You can use as of join to bring that a bit together. Or if you want to do a time slice, right, aggregating up. These are just some simple, fun things to do. I see somebody's taking a picture of that, so that's good. So let me open it up for any questions if I still have time. People are dying to know. If people are laughing at the different naming schemas over the years, right? Fantastic, great. Hey, well, thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'll be at the booth for another 5 minutes, and then I'm off.